to the mate issue, right? Which is even more intimate than most other relationships. But if you understand somebody's foundational character, you can understand what you can expect them, how you can expect them to behave. And I think behavior then becomes the path from which all of the fruit comes out, what their life is going to produce. And then
Not only actions that are intentional, but, and I think this is where it gets critical. Most people in a happy, healthy environment, or, we talk about the honeymoon period.
right,
Hey, they're happy enough, and those parts of their character that maybe aren't exactly what they desired aren't a big deal, because they're happy and moving along. But then when you face financial crisis or personal crisis or the death of a child or something like that, it's the reaction that is character born. How do you handle something that hits you out of left field? How do you handle a twist and a turn that you never thought was coming? That's when we find out what virtues we have embraced,
right,
and what is really a part of us versus, what does life look like when everything's working well? And that reactionary product is vital to know, because no one has a trouble-free life.
that's right. So part of this is developed from Maslow's hierarchy of need, right? So his hierarchy starts at physiological. So the physical and mental health part is kind of the place where Maslow begins. I add character because I think character is more of a spiritual or a heart thing, right?
Sure.
Than a manifestation. Now you manifest that which you are. So that's why I think of it as spiritual.
Right.
I'm not a academician as far as how you define these things. So I'm trying to look through all of the literature that I've read over 30 years and kind of define it in that way, right?
Right.
But Maslow starts at physiological, and basically says if you don't have shelter and you don't have food and you don't have water, then you're not going to be able to move forward. So I add that together with mental health. So
Sure.
there's a physical part of who we are, but there's also the mental part that we have to deal with. So we're getting into body and mind at that point. And then from a business perspective, this is where I start with businesses, which is knowing yourself and your strengths. So the other stuff is foundational. It exists, and in an individual level, you can coach folks in that regard. But where we hit the road and where we start impacting others, I think, is knowing yourself and your strengths, and then building strong relationships, right? And
Right.
what the strong relationships is knowing themselves and their strengths too, right? So it's like the first part is, and I think you said the other day that Jordan Peterson says that answering Lex Friedman's question about how do you know who's right for you? What did Pearson say?
Well, he said that's a dumb question. What you need to be asking is how can you be what's right for someone else, and
That's
do
right.
that work.
That's right. So foundationally, then, if you know your character and you have good physical and mental health, and you know yourself, which in a lot of cases people don't know themselves. They're driven by the winds of a current of something external to themselves. But if they really know themselves, then they're somewhat immune to that. And if they know their strengths, they know how they can be most best useful in the world. And that's a Gallup strengths kind of a thing, right? It also can be Myers-Briggs or DISC or anything else. But the point is that you know who you are and you know how to get the best out of yourself. My leadership brand is Leadership In. And I call it Leadership In because In is the next. So it is who you are today and who you are tomorrow. And Peterson is the one that says that in his first book, or his second book, the 12 Rules. He talks about knowing, growing to the next version of you every day, right? Becoming that which you are, becoming better than you were yesterday. And that's how you should judge yourself, not judging yourself to others, but judging yourself to you. And are you becoming something better every day? So I take that from that and other references.
Right. And I like that, on that level, you say strong relationships. You don't just say relationships. I mean, we have relationships that are terrible or draining or wearying or demanding, that are not strong relationships. And we have weak relationships. And I help a lot of people when I mediate. And part of my investment in my granddaughter is to say, okay, what are the components for you that would develop a strong relationship? So when